Recently, I challenged one of my beginner music production students to write a melody and then write a strong set of chords around it, and this is what he sent me. Now for a beginner producer, this is pretty impressive. However, it took him over 10 attempts to come up with a melody and chord progression that actually worked well together. And that is where I came up with the idea for this video. I've been teaching a lot of beginner music producers lately and noticed that between chords and melodies, beginner producers tend to struggle more with writing strong chords. Chords are the emotional backbone of any song, and they are what makes your melodies come to life. So what I want to do in this video today is I want to take my student's melody here, which I actually really like. I'm going to take his chords and delete them. And now I'm going to show you how I would approach building the strongest possible chord progression that would bring this melody to life. I'm going to show you my 5 best techniques that I actually use to do this and that you can apply to your own music as well. Let's get started. Technique number 1 is to calibrate your ears with the melody. It sounds weird, but I promise you this made me so good at writing good chord progressions. The way you do this is you take the key signature of your melody, so you have to know that part. In this case, it's in G. Then load up a synth of choice. I'm going to use X for serum and either create or load up a bass sound. I'm going to create a bass. We have our sawtooth wave here, stuff it with some unison, turn on the filter here, and now we have is a respace actually. Respaces are great for creating melodic bass lines. But to get calibrated now, I'm going to go to a low octave on my piano roll and write a nice deep bass on G, because our melody's in G. And then you just press play and feel it out, like really connect with your melody. And so what I just did there was I kind of calibrated my ears and emotions to the scale of this melody. And now I'm ready to rock and roll and get melodic. Technique number 2 is to play around with the 1st and the 6th chord in the minor scale or the 4th and the 6th chord in the major scale. There are 7 chords in any given scale that you can use to make a progression with, but this isn't a good starting point. I'm going to focus on the minor scale for this demonstration and delete the 7, 5, 4, 3, and 2 chord. I like to start with these 2 chords because they're the strongest chords in the scale. The 1 chord in any minor scale is the tonic, so it's the central chord of that key signature. It's going to always work. The 6, on the other hand, is the most emotional chord in the scale. So when I have a melody or I'm making a melody, I like to see how these 2 chords relate to it. See how you get that emotional hit when you switch from this chord to this chord? I love that so much. So in my simple brain, that means if these 2 chords work with that melody, aka they bring it to life, that must mean it's a pretty good melody. So now what I'll do is I'll play around with different progressions that incorporate the 1 and the 6 in some way. Here's a progression that goes from the 1 to the 6 to the 7. Isn't that nice? Let's keep going. Let's make a couple more. For this next one, I'll use a different sound. I might take the 6 to the 7 to the 1. And then we'll end on the 3. The 3 in the minor scale is what I call the happy chord because it is the relative major's tonic of that minor scale that you're in. Now, I'm going to pull this down an octave. Too high there. And that went nice. All right, we'll do one more. This is my favorite progression of all time, and it's when you start with the 6, but you extend it, go up to the 1, and then end on the 7. I love this progression so much that I don't even use it because I don't want to wear it out and waste it on a bad song. Before we play this one, we have to add an atmospheric pad. I'm just going to take a new instance of X for Serum, initialize the preset, turn on the filter. We get this sound, but I'm going to soften the attack and the release. Turn on reverb and put it all the way up, and then add some decay, like a lot of decay. And we will place some notes that follow the contour or the movement of the chords. Wow, that's really good. And that's just playing around with the 1 and the 6 chord. It's a great starting point. Try it out. And now for my next trick, which is starting with the bass. This is a simplistic approach to building a chord progression because we're going to start with a single note and just harmonize with the melody. For this, we're going to have to build a respace because these work the best for this. You can use any synth of choice to build this because it's a very simple sound. I'm going to use X for Serum as always. Initialize the preset. You're going to want to pick a sawtooth wave on one oscillator. Stuff that oscillator with unison. Again, most synths can do this. Turn on your filter and kind of make it a tight filter like this and just cut it off a bit. Draw a region under the melody. And I love this method because we don't have to think about building chords right now. All we have to think about is creating a harmony. And I'll just start firing off different notes. And it's a lot of randomness and trial and error. Sometimes you end up with something. And you want to do it over and over. Maybe save everything you make that you kind of like or you like. But you just keep going. And then at the end, you pick the option you like the best. That sounds really good. That's awesome. So let me show you what to do next. When you have a harmony that you like, so I'm going to go back to this first one. These bass notes automatically become the bottom notes of the chords or the root notes. So what we can do is just take them, copy them, and paste them 7 semitones up, and that's going to be the 5th of the chord. And then place that middle note, which is the 3rd of each chord. Make sure it's the right 3rd. So if we play back, obviously they're too low on the piano roll. We can't even hear them. So when that happens, you have to raise the chords up higher on the piano roll. But then what we can do to make sure we get a nice thick bass sound is we could take the root notes of the chords, copy them, and put them down into a nice bassy octave. That one's not that bassy. So I'm going to go down 2 octaves. I also like the 3rds of each chord to be on the top of the chords. So I'm going to take the 5th and pull it down an octave. And we're going to cover more of that in this video. This is pretty. The This next technique is just to add another melody. Sometimes I will spend hours trying to come up with a chord progression that actually works. The only problem with that is every second that you listen to music, your ears get tired. That means this melody can go from a beautiful melody to like blank noise, and you can't harmonize with blank noise. So what do? Grab another instrument with a lot of reverb on it, like this piano, and that new melody should help refocus your ears and take you out of that creative glut. And now with your new melody and inspiration, you get back to work and make some new progressions. Technique 5 is one of the most important techniques, and that is to not leave your chords in basic form. When you write an entire progression where your chords go from root to third to fifth, like this, you get a pretty basic sound. Now that one sounds okay, but it can sound better. You can reach a whole new potential with your chords just by playing around with the notes. And there's really no structure to this. You just play around until you come up with something you like. So for example, I might take all the root notes and double them by pulling them down an octave. And then maybe I'll add a seventh to this chord. Then I'll add a sixth to this chord. Maybe I'll go down to these chords, which are a lot lower than these on the piano roll. I'll take the thirds. Maybe I'll go to these bass notes and pull up the velocity of just those bass notes just a little bit so we get more of a solidified root. Here it is with my student's melody. This is awesome. And those are my 5 main approaches for building really strong chord progressions to bring any melody to life. If you would like me to coach you one-on-one and show you how to elevate your music directly, check out the link at the top of the description below for my coaching program. For other resources like my courses and access to my production community, where you can hang out and share your music with myself and every producer that I've ever taught, you can check out my links in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video lesson.